Hey there, my amazing artists. I hope that you are enjoying your first few weeks of virtual school. I know that there's been some hiccups and some stress and everything else along the way, but I want you to know that I'm here for you, your teachers are here for you, and we understand because, like I said in my welcome video, this is kind of new for us too. We're learning as we go along. So, and my little girl is in first grade as well, and she's a virtual student. So I understand, getting used to having to do your work on the computer versus doing your work in class and being with your friends and setting aside those times and creating a schedule and all of those things. So we're going to make it, okay? So today, though, you are going to watch a video with me, and then you're going to also watch a video with this fantastic artist and art teacher that I know. Her name is Cassie Stevens, and she is going to show you how to make this. Okay, now ours is going to look a little bit different than hers does because she used ink and she used oil pastels and some other things. So instead of those things, I used a Sharpie, which you may or may not have, and that's okay, and we'll go over in the video. And I used crayons. Now, I painted mine too, but if you don't have paint, that's okay. You can just color, okay? So we're going to talk about some different types of lines. And right now, it's backwards on mine, so I hope it's not backwards on yours once it actually comes out. But so we have straight lines, we have zigzag lines, we have curvy lines, and we have spiral lines. And then all of these lines can be either thin or thick. Okay, so I want to see different types of lines in your artwork. Line is an element of art, and those are the building blocks of how we make our art. So we're going to talk about line and color, which is another element of art, and also pattern today. And pattern is a principle of art. Not like principle as in Mr. Short. This is a principle to think of how we're going to take those building blocks and apply it. We're going to take those blocks, and that's how we're going to build or apply our knowledge to make a pattern, okay? So join me as I make my drawing, but I want you to wait and make yours with Cassie Stevens, okay? You're going to be watching, but I wanted to give you some tips on things that you can do at home because you may not have some of the materials that she has, and that's okay. So first of all, she's going to talk to you about how a cylinder or a cup, oftentimes whenever you look at the top of it, it has this circle shape. But when you tilt it to the side, and I have to kind of be careful with mine because it's got water in it, but as you tilt it to the side, look, it kind of turns into an oval. So she's going to talk to you about that with some blocks that she has. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that she draws her cup and her background with a bingo dauber with ink inside of it. Now, I don't know about you, but you probably don't have a bingo dauber with ink inside of it. So instead, what I'd like for you to do is to use a pencil to draw with. And then you can trace over your pencil marks with either a Sharpie, if you have one at home, or if you have a black marker at home, you can do that too. And I'm sorry that's not in focus real well for you, or you can do it with a marker. The thing is if you use a Crayola marker, you're going to have to do it last thing. Because this Crayola marker, if you choose to paint, this Crayola marker is going to smear just like paint does. Now, if you're not going to paint, you can go on and use your Crayola marker and then color with your crayons instead. Another thing you can do if you don't have markers at home is use your black crayon to trace around your pencil lines as well, okay? So let's get started. The first thing she does is draw this elliptical shape here, okay? Now, I didn't draw the whole part of it because I'm drawing this part first. And then I'm gonna come back around and finish that part out, okay? Then I'm gonna draw down to make my cup shape, and then the bottom is gonna have this curve as well, okay? Now, we also need a handle for our cup of hot chocolate. So to make that handle, I'm going to make a backward C shape and then one more, okay? Now, to show that our cup has something in it, we're going to make another curved line here to show where our hot chocolate is, okay? Now, our cup needs a table to sit on because it can't just be floating in outer space. That would be pretty funny. So I'm going to draw a line across, and I'm actually going to erase my line just a little bit because I want my line to come just a little below where this handle is. So right about here. So I'm actually going to start on this side and draw my line. And then come over here, and now I'm going to pick my pencil up. I'm not going to draw through my cup, but I'm going to pick my pencil up and kind of draw across, pretend draw across, and then finish that line out, okay? So that gives us a place for our cup. Now, if you drew your handle a little further down, kind of like I did, you can always come back and draw your cup down a little bit more. Here. And you could leave it like that. You could make a line on the bottom of your cup, but I'm actually going to erase that line so it's not there anymore. Now, I can come in and create a background space. And in this background space on Miss Stevens, she made polka dots, and now I love polka dots too, and she used oil pastels for hers, but I am going to use crayons because that's what you have at home. So she talks about how oil pastels will resist whenever you paint over the top of them with watercolors, and all that means is that the waxy part of the crayon or the oil in the oil pastels, it does not like water. So when the water and the oil try to mix together, it's a big old fight. So what it's going to do is keep where you've drawn your polka dots or whatever design you want to put in the background on your paper. Whenever you go to paint that, it's not going to stick to those crayon marks, okay? Now, I want you guys to pay attention and see how hard I'm coloring and how I'm coloring in so that I have no white space in there at all. Because what is going to happen to our paper if we have any white space left? Any ideas? That paint will stick to it if you choose to paint. If you don't, then you'll just color around. Okay. So I'm going to skip over here just a little bit and make more polka dots. And then skip over here and make more. And I'm just going to keep going. Now, I'm going to speed it up just a little bit so we can go a little bit faster, okay? Okay, so I have gone on and colored some more spots. Now, here's the part where I would tell you if you are going to continue coloring, you don't have a paint set at home, like one of these, okay? And that's okay if you don't. If you don't have a paint set at home, then just continue coloring, okay? And you can go on and trace your pencil lines with a black crayon, your Crayola marker, or if you have a Sharpie, you can do that as well. If you are going to paint, if you have a Sharpie, now is when you trace your pencil lines. If you do not have a Sharpie and the only thing you have is a marker, you need to wait until the very end after your painting has dried to trace your pencil lines with the marker, okay? If you want to use a crayon to trace your pencil lines and then paint, now is the time to do that. So if you have these two things, now is the time to trace your pencil lines. If you only have this, and that's what you want to use, wait. Now is the time that you would paint. So I do have a Sharpie. So I'm going to go and trace my pencil lines very carefully. Now, if you make a zigzag like I did here, or really any of your patterns, you want to make sure that your patterns are nice and big, because as you come back to try to trace those pencil lines, even with your crayon, if they're not really big, it's going to be really hard to try to get back in there and make those designs. And remember, our artist inspiration, she uses big lines and big patterns. So that's what we need to do too. All right, so now I have my pencil lines traced with my Sharpie, not my Crayola marker, okay? Now I can start painting. So my paints, let me see if I can move my stuff over here for you. Okay, so here are my paints. Now these paints are called watercolor paints, which means that you need water to help make them work. And they have pigment that has had water added to it. But now these are dehydrated. So I can touch them right now and I don't have anything on my fingers. But once I wet my paintbrush, and I like to use old cups, like this particular one is an ice cream cup. It's kind of hard to see right now, but it's an ice cream cup. You could use an old yogurt cup. You could use an old sour cream tub, or all sorts of different things. Or you can even just use a regular cup, but I would make sure that you have permission first. So you will get a little bit of water on your brush, and then we're going to paint our background yellow just like Cassie Stevens did. So I'm going to dip my brush into the yellow, and I'm going to circle it around a little bit to get to load it up with paint, and then I'm going to start painting. And look, I can paint right over the top just like she did with her oil pastels. I can paint right over the top of my crayon marks. Let me make that just a little soupier. And if you have a big area of color where it's really kind of wet on your paper, you can just use your paintbrush. Oh, sorry, I just realized you couldn't see all that up there. If you have an area that has a lot of water on it, then you can just push that paint into a different spot. I just realized we forgot to make our marks of the steam. So what I'm going to do, I'll take my pencil here, and luckily we've not painted very far yet. So I'm going to make a curvy line that comes up in between those two polka dots. And I'm going to make them look just a little bit different to add a little bit of there we go. To add a little bit of visual interest to our work and help elongate our work. Does anybody have any idea what elongate means? So it has the word long in it. So what does long mean? You stretch it out. So that's what we're going to do here is we're going to stretch out our artwork so that we have interest up here in the top portion of our artwork as well. So I'm going to keep painting. And now you do not want to paint your steam marks because steam is just white, okay? Okay. So I'm going to pause this and then I will come back and show you the completed project because you were going to paint along with Cassie in her video, okay? Okay, so here's the finished project. Now it's still just a little bit damp and I actually am going to come in here just a little bit with a Kleenex and pick up some of that excess water that I have there. You don't have to do that, but you can. And it's hard to see here because there's a little bit of a glare, but it actually gives a little bit of implied texture to your piece as well. So thanks for drawing with me today, and I hope that you guys are doing well. And as always, if you have any questions about anything, please be sure that you let me know. You can contact me on Class Dojo or through email at Brooke, BROOKE.Boggs, BOGGS, @newportgrammar.org. See you guys later.